Welcome. Beer and
Ah,
Live.
bows and beer. Brewskis and Bowits.
Boa Day and beer
Bro a day.
Oh man,
Oh,
I don't think
man.
we've had an official carpets and coffee for quite a bit, huh?
Not with our fearless leader. It's been either me and Owen bumble, whatting our way through it, or me, Riley, and Owen bumble, whatting our way through
Bumblebee
it.
tuna.
Yeah.
Hey, cool.
So it's good to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I've been worried. I'm sure the people have been worried.
What's up, Chris? Yeah.
Want to give us a little update?
Yeah, well, I've just been sick. Family's sick. Everyone's sick. Shit. No, I was saying to you guys before we started, I have like that, what did you call it? Long-term COVID, where you just are just exhausted afterwards. And man,
COVID part 2.
Yeah. Being old sucks, man.
Yeah.
To be
I mean,
young.
that extra sucks because you got the vax, like you've it shouldn't happen.
Followed all the rules, man.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
But at least I'm not dead. It could be worse, right?
That's true. Maybe it's a sign that if you were going at it with no artificial antibodies, maybe it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah. What are you trying to say? My underlying conditions would have taken me
I
out?
don't know. I sure hope not. I'd be so sad.
So what you guys been up to?
I've been at wine tasting.
Wine tasting
today?
Oh,
Yes.
Nice.
We had an appointment looking at a wedding venue, so that went by fast. We're like, well, let's get lunch. Let's go get some wine. Hey, let's sit in old historic Folsom and do some wine tasting. So we did.
Nice.
It's so funny. We ended up trying a bunch of these really good wines and leaving with. They sell them in a pouch. It's really funny. It's just really good quality wine, but they put them in a 1.5 liter pouch. So it's like 2 bottles in this pouch, and because it's sealed in the way you pour it, no oxygen gets to it. So this pouch can last like a month, which, let's be real, 2 bottles of wine isn't going to last a month. But it's called Chateau Mofo. But they spell it like MEAUFEAUX.
Nice.
Francais.
So, yeah, they had a little fun with it, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was good. That was my only obligation for the weekend. I got all my snake stuff done yesterday because I knew I had this going on today. So
right on. Very good. Very good.
But now I need coffee.
Yeah. It's the right show.
Coffee. Yeah.
Do you have some brewing?
No. No, I just have desires and no solutions at the moment.
I'm gonna coin that.
Yeah, I was gonna
no
say,
solution.
You just described my life. Nice. Well, I mean, I to be completely honest, I've had a lot going on for the last couple days, reptile wise. Yeah, I got a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, you got some cool stuff.
Got cool stuff. I made a video about it and edited that this morning. So
I still gotta go watch that. I saw that. I saw your little do you put it on Instagram story, right?
I did. Yeah.
Saw that.
So new vlog on my YouTube, unboxing all the new stuff.
So you can put the full video up on the Instagram videos?
No, just a thumbnail. You just put like
I just put a little teaser. I mean, you can, but to an extent, Instagram cuts stuff off at like an hour, I think, for Instagram TV stuff. But it's annoying.
Yeah.
It's But shoot, yeah. I mean, today I edited that video. I did a ton of school because Zach's class is really hard right now, and so
how's up?
Oh man, we got to the meat of the course, I guess you would say. So we're on squamates now.
Okay.
And if Zach is going to pile on a lot for any group of species, it's going to be squamates, which is fair. And it's also what I want to learn about the most. So I'm not complaining by any means, but yeah, it's a lot. I did 3 hours of lecture yesterday, an hour of lecture today, and I just started on my list of 7 essay questions I have to do in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's what I signed up for. Not complaining. I'm going to get it done. I'm learning. It's good. I messaged him, though, because he had a mistake in his lecture where he said that Brettles are from the Kimberly. And I was like, sir, incorrect. This is my only opportunity to call you out on something. And he was like, yeah. Alice Springs isn't in the Kimberly. You got me. But yeah, I mean, life's good. I'm
fact-based herpetoculture, my ass.
Yeah. I know it's I'm sure it would be a huge pain in the butt for him to re-record the entire PowerPoint though. So
sure, yeah.
I get it. It's been fun. It's I mean, I'm mostly excited about the animals and I can't stop looking at the new stuff, but yeah.
Well, okay. I'm gonna tell before we get into the animals, because we'll just go on for that forever.
We should talk about coffee.
Coffee. I'm drinking this Misfit coffee, and it's from a company in Birmingham, Alabama. It's called Relevator Coffee Company, and it's pretty freaking good. It's Misfit coffee, and it's like real smooth. It's got a sweet kind of taste to it.
What's our roast? We've got dark, medium, blend.
I prefer dark. Yeah,
me too.
I like the darker blends, even though I like stuff with more caffeine. But
yeah,
I like
which is weird,
darker,
right?
bolder flavor. Yeah, you'd think because it like tastes so much heavier. But that's where the French press comes in handy. You just leave it in there longer, make some jet fuel.
So wait,
I
have to ask this question because I do a specific thing with my French roast, and I know Riley, you are like a connoisseur of the French roast. What's your process?
So I have like an electric grinder, and if I'm doing a full press, I know exactly where I need to fill it before I start like messing with, having too much beans in the press. I've just done it enough, and so I'll grind it down to not like the super fine consistency,
right?
But I want it like pepper granules, like broken up pepper granule size. And then I have an electric kettle to get it hot, to get water hot. So I'll get water boiling. And then once that's off, I'll let it sit for a second and then pour it in. And usually I'll let it brew for 5 to 6 minutes. But if I really want like some serious kick in it, I'll go like 7 to 9 minutes and let that sit just, right there and then pour it out. And it's hefty.
So when I do a similar thing, I do basically the recipe I use is it's 30 grams of coffee, 500 grams of water.
Grams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I'll do that. Same kind of grind. I'll grind it up. I get the what I'll do is I pour the water in with the coffee and I'll let it go for 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I stir it up and I sift out that I don't know what it's called, but like the kind of foamy top, right? So I'll sift that off.
Okay.
And then I give it another 10 minutes to brew. And then
you got your magic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I haven't gotten to the point where like I'm weighing or measuring out the beans and water, but I have like my eyeball levels based on the carafe, based on the grinder, based on how much I'm trying to make. And I know what, like, if I'm doing a full amount of beans for a full press, there's a certain like line on my carafe where the metal frame is, where if I pour over that, I'm getting too diluted, too watery of a taste if I'm only doing a short brew. If I fill it up to like this right point, it'll always be good. But then if I go longer brew it, it'll always taste like, something special. But you got to be careful not to burn it, like too hot water or like, you got to keep your beans fresh too. So I have like this nice air vacuum sealed like container that I put everything in. So
I got one of them too.
Yeah.
I really wasn't a weigher of coffee for most of my life up until probably the last year. And as I got geekier and geekier about it, as you can with things, right? I hear everybody talk about that weighing it, and like the mix between the two is what,
Interesting.
where you get your taste from. And
Right.
like I experimented with going a little more than that, a little more water, a little less water. I experimented with the different grinds, and it really does make a difference in the taste. And the other thing I don't do with the French press is I don't plunge it. And it seems to keep that like like I just leave the plunger right at the top of the coffee
And you
and
just
pour it in
through
and
the mesh.
It seems to not get that what would you call it? The gritty, basically like the coffee grind that you get into the cup seems to stay out for the most part.
So you won't press it all the way down. You'll put it in just enough to hold everything in place and pour through the grounds at the top and the screen and everything.
Yep. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if that I wonder if that adds like more flavor on the back end as it's like pouring through. It just gives it that last like filter of flavor.
I'm not 100% sure, but that's sort of where I saw this guy that was talking about, different ways to do French press. He said to try that, and maybe you'll get a better flavor or a stronger flavor. And yeah, that is perfect for like a cup like this, and then it has like this much more. So it's like, yeah, it's perfect for me in the morning. I hit that up. Good,
nice.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Nice.
That's
Very
my
nice.
coffee tip.
Okay. Well,
it is.
Like we said last week, I can't do coffee at the time that we do our podcast, but this morning I had the same beans, that Pete's dark roast that I showed off last week.
Major Dickinson's blend.
That's right. Yep.
That stuff is good.
It's solid. I don't measure out by weight. I measure out tablespoons of grounds to keep my ratio consistent. And whereas in the past I've done a lot of like pour over stuff, which is undoubtedly better, I've just been a lazy SOB for the past year, and I'm just using a coffee machine because it's more about the caffeine for me at the moment.
Right.
I still enjoy the taste of good coffee, but like I don't have time for that these days. I don't have time to enjoy anything. I just need to get jacked and get to work.
No time for playing.
But at the moment, if we discuss beverages at current time, I'm enjoying a port barrel aged saison from my favorite brewery in Santa Cruz, Humble Sea, where I went to college. This bottle was gifted to me by my friend when I had mono, for when I could drink again. And so I'm enjoying it in my Humble Sea cup. And
there you go.
That's the story, because I'm allowed now.
Nice.
So I have to share this with you guys real quick. I think you'll appreciate this, but I was sent this today.
Wow.
The great oligarcho and ruler of the interns.
Oh man.
Nice.
That is special. Oh, he's standing on skulls too. That must be all the other interns.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Is that Eric in the background looking on in disappointment? Like, God damn it, Owen. He's standing up on top of the castle like, Owen, get back here, you fool.
What are you
Who
doing?
sent that to you? Who made this?
Hold on, I'll tell you.
That's funny.
I was a little disappointed. Nick Mutton posted asking for somebody to send him pictures of a species of bandicoot for the book. And so I edited Owen's face on a bandicoot and sent that picture. And nobody liked it. I thought it was funny, but I guess I was the only one.
It was Victor Loreno.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
very good. Yeah.
Ego would not approve.
He's so important that he didn't respond to us. And he's
Who's that?
Owen.
Oh, Owen.
The great oligarch.
But so all right. So let's tell us about your greatest snake day, reptile day of your life.
Yes. It totally was. So for those who haven't seen yet, I got first of all a male rough scale python to complete my pair, because I've had my female from Nick for about a year now, and it's been on my list to get a boy for her.
Right.
So that was kind of the one that I have been planning on doing for a couple months. I've been talking to Brett for that for a long time, and finally made that happen. I also got with a friend, kind of like a joint project thing. I got the trio of Kimberly rocks, also from
Nice.
Brett. So he hatched out those 3, and I jumped on that. My buddy and my friend does a lot with like tree monitors and Ackies and stuff like that. And so we decided to get the trio together, go halfsies on it. And then we're going to raise them up as a group, and then when they're old enough to where males and females kind of need to be separated, some will live here, some will live there.
Cool.
So super stoked on that. They're freaking awesome. And they're so tiny.
Yeah,
Like,
aren't they cool? Yeah.
They're so cool, but they're small. I was shocked how small they were.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, when yours arrived, they're just like, wow, I could lose this.
I did.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Did you find it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, the big one was a pair of adult Western blackheads, which
Nice.
for me, like it quite simply is my holy grail. I can't really say it any other way. They are perfect in my eyes. And
Nice.
I got the opportunity. The person who was selling them reached out to me and asked if I was interested. And I knew I was interested, but I also knew that it was going to cost a kidney. But I did what I had to do
Right.
to make it work, because I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I didn't. So, and it all came together.
Nice.
They're beautiful.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are they a breeding pair? Have they bred before? Or I don't remember.
The male has sired many a clutch. For Dan, these came from Dan Vermelia.
Right.
He's in fact the father of my yearling Western male.
Okay.
But the female is just 4 years old this year. This was going to be his
Holdback.
first time trying to breed her. He's one of the holdbacks. Yeah. So she has not been tried, and this is the first year that it would be possible. So I'm definitely going to try, but they also just did a cross country plane ride. So it might be an off year, but we'll see how it goes.
You never know.
You never know. But yes, the girl is 4 and the male is 19. He's a 2002.
Holy shit.
And he is a really impressive animal. Like he doesn't look overweight by any means. If he was, he wouldn't have lived 19 years, but he's large just in that he's old, like he's proportionally correct. He looks trim and healthy, but he's long. He is a big animal.
Wow. That's cool.
But at least in 2020, he was still reproductive. So I think he's got a year or 2 left in him, hopefully.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He could probably live into his 30s.
I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. But, it is kind of nice also just to know in the back of my head that I do have his son as a fallback plan if the worst is to happen.
Right.
Which is, you kind of have to think realistically when you have just almost geriatric animals. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully I have the girl for decades to come, and I don't know. I genuinely feel the most content that I have ever felt with the reptile side of my life. And I don't want anything. I just want to focus on what I have. And I've never felt that way.
That's a good feeling when you finally get to that point.
I just feel so content, and I like all the boxes are checked, and I feel like I have enough boxes to where I should just focus on my boxes.
That's so hard, man.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
And it probably is. It probably helps too that I'm working at East Bay right now, because I get a lot of my, animal outlet out there.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted more stuff when I wasn't working there, because I wasn't surrounded by it all day.
Right.
Riley, you probably relate to that. You know,
Yeah.
just getting hands on with all the monitors and stuff at GX3.
Yeah.
You're not like, I need a Lacey at home. Like,
No, I need a Lacey at home.
okay.
Yeah,
Are they that cool?
Those are the exception. Those things are fucking epic, dude. I can't
Really?
wait till they're so much bigger. They're like 2.5 years old, and dude, they're gonna be so damn big when they're adults, and I can't wait. Like, they're awesome. They're really awesome.
What's their temperament like? Are they?
They're twitchy, man. They are aware of everything, and they flinch a lot. They kind of like fast movers. They're kind of like they just really they're really hyper aware, hypersensitive of every stimulus touching them and moving. They're not prone to bite in my experience, but it's just these two animals. But neither of them has even tried. So as far as I'm concerned, they're just flighty unless you corner them.
Right.
I've honestly gotten bit more by the baby water monitors than these two. So
what's their? I'm sort of. I don't remember. Like, what's their adult size? They're pretty big, right? Like a water
I would
monitor
say
size?
snout to vent. You're probably looking at a meter, 1.2 meters, so close to 3 feet snout to vent. Big long tail, 6 foot animal, no problem.
That's a decent size. Wow.
But they're longer, they're leaner. Like if you see photos of water monitors, think of them, but like a trimmer body, not as stout, thick legs, like longer, leaner legs. But they've got a really long tail. So
yeah,
they're good size. Our 2-year-olds, I'd say right now, are snout to vent maybe 2 feet. Like if I'm holding the female right here and I've got her chest in my hands, her back legs are here. Yeah, so she's probably about 2 feet snout to vent, so maybe 4.5 feet long overall right now.
I guess they're more arboreal than, say, a water monitor, right?
They're rarely on the ground. I only see ours on the ground to go to the bathroom or dig around. Otherwise, they're up on ledges, up in trees, all the way up to the ceiling. The water monitors are in the pool, digging around on the sand, occasionally on ledges if it's warm, but otherwise they are completely different.
I can't remember there was a YouTube video that I saw, and this guy moved up to like the Cairns area, I guess it was, like up in that area, and he has like this beautiful backyard, like right out into the rainforest, and he would go out on his deck and he would watch these monitors sort of raid the nest of cockatoos.
Yeah,
it's wild, man, and then those cockatoos are like fighting off the monitor, and the monitor's just pulling baby right out of the baby chicks right out, which is kind of brutal, I guess, when you think about it, but that's what nature is. But
these things are they're cool lizards, man. They're hands down my favorite. I mean, I think I'd have to work with parentes just to rule them out before I say like these are cooler, but as far as my experiences go right now, the laces are definitely my favorite.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
We saw the DR one that was
DOR.
Well, it was DOR, but I mean, it was kind of squashed beyond. All you could really see was the skin, so you knew what it was, but
kind of leather.
Yeah. But
rough.
Can I post it? Yeah, post it up. I think you can. I don't know. Maybe they'll take us to us. Go ahead, Alex. Post it up.
A coastal carpet bite that was posted.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I got bit by my 6.5, 7 foot little 4-year-old from Travis the other day, and she grabbed me on the hands and did this whole like food wrap, and it was just right in like the meat right there, dude. Oh, it like itches now, but like this whole area was like blue and green and swollen. Oh, it was not pleasant.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah, she held on for a while.
I haven't been bitten a long time by anything bigger than baby spotted pythons at work and my baby Aki. I don't know. I'm on a streak.
One of the baby black dragons I was holding just randomly decided for no reason just to latch on, and he was like on the ground, like trying to pull away, like digging in there. And I was like, hey, this is actually really starting to hurt. Hey,
It's like that guy in Jurassic Park 2 that gets killed by the compies.
Yeah,
Just
but
like
it's like, dude, I sympathize. That shit hurt, man. He was
well,
like,
yeah, if you had like 100 of them, you'd be.
oh, dude, like
hurt.
that really freaking hurt. Like all day, you know, when your finger gets smashed in a door or something and it like hurts all day, like that deep bruising. That's how my finger felt. I was like, you're too small to be able to do that. That's not cool.
Wow. That's wild.
Hug ass. Yeah.
Hopefully, it figures out how to be friendly before it's a giant.
That's not my problem. That's Fire's problem. I'll play with the nice ones, and then the mean ones will get some attention. But otherwise, like, if they're gonna be how they're gonna be, then you know, whatever.
Saying you haven't been bit only means you're gonna get bit. Yeah, probably. Eventually.
Yeah. Yep.
Owen's Womas try every time I give them water.
Did you see the photo that Scott put up of that Woma biting its tail and like full wrapping its tail?
Yeah, that's concerning because they're definitely dumb enough to try to eat themselves.
Oh man,
like you've seen that with king snakes. I feel like a Woma would do it.
Yeah, they're Australia's king snake for sure.
Yeah.
The poor Womas.
Hey, I love them, but they're no blackheads.
Yeah, what did you guys think of that Woma that looked like the Exanic? I guess it's what is it, an Exanic Woma or whatever?
The super dark ones that got posted up.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on that?
I thought it was cool, but I still preferred the more orangey ones to the ones that are exceedingly black.
Yeah, me too.
I do like that one that came up not too long ago, that all black one, that like orange head that went into like a stripe on the back that disappeared into all black.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that look was really cool.
That was super weird.
Yeah,
I thought that had like a neat, like burnt
from the Snake Ranch
bushfire look.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the Snake Ranch that had those.
Right. And it wasn't there also one in the US?
Yeah, somebody else had some pop up, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Oh, like the dark,
like super melanistic with a streak of orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I had a picture of that, but I guess I don't. Okay.
We definitely tossed it around, but that was like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I have only tried eating one of the kids' toys. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it does.
That sounds all right. Let's see, what do we got here?
But you gotta love them for it, right?
Yeah, I'm just glad my babies don't do that.
Okay.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're starting to get curious and nose around.
Yeah, odds are good. One of yours will probably stay chill, but I think that from my observations, when they start to be bitey, it happens around a year or two.
Really?
When they decide everything is food.
Makes sense.
And then the ones that don't decide everything's food, like stay chill. I don't know. Like I've still yet to meet a Woma that bites defensively or like aggressively. It's always just food.
Yeah.
Food.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's see. Here we go. I got this picture of this bite. Let's see what's what.
What's going on?
Are we talking about the coastal carpet bite?
Oh my God.
Uh-oh. Do we want to show this?
Ooh. Wow, that's pretty rough.
Is there context? Is it from over in Australia? Is it a big wild one or something?
Yeah, it's a wild carpet python bite.
Nice.
Okay. That's kind of
nice.
Here we
Let's
go.
see this.
All right.
Ready?
Your discretion is advised. Oh.
That's why you don't pull away when you get bit.
Yeah, that's not for the squeamish.
Ooh, man. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a dog bite.
Probably need surgery for ligament damage on that one based on the location. That's like what happened to my coworker that got chomped by the croc monitor and needed surgery. Just like right through the ligaments there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the many examples and reasons why we won't do croc monitors at the shop.
I wish we didn't do croc monitors at my shop, but there's like 4.
Yeah, man. We draw some lines. Croc monitors is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of those reptiles that probably shouldn't be in the hands of most people.
Yeah.
I can promise you that there's only been like one person who's come into the shop in the entirety that I would trust buying a croc monitor from me if we had it.
Right.
And I just don't want that on my conscience. That's also why we don't sell retics or berms or anacondas or
speaking of conscience,
green iguanas.
I had to sell. Well, I guess I didn't have to. I kind of had to. I had to sell a retic the other day, and I really didn't feel good about it. I didn't. Just got to be honest. It was to a 19-year-old, and so they're 1 year old enough for me to not be able to say no. You're too young. You're a kid. Where's your parents? And they were like, "Yeah, I've kept a bunch of ball pythons." It's like, all right, so we need to talk about this, and chatted.
Do you get in trouble if you pause that sale and coach them a bit at all? Do they?
No, and that's exactly what I did. I was like,
Nice.
well, you need to realize, and I'm no offense, I'm sure you're doing your research, but just listen to me when I tell you that this animal is going to be large enough to eat a small child. It's going to be large enough to eat your dog, and you're going to need to provide it with a cage the size of a large closet or a small room. You understand that, right? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, and have you had large snakes before? I got some ball pythons, and I'm like, okay. And it's tricky because, you can only really say in my position, nah, I'm not going to sell this to you. If they give you a glaring red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're willing and
if they're telling you, I know all these things, I'm ready for it. I'm done my research. I'm not in over my head. Who am I to argue with them?
I agree.
But you just still have that feeling.
Was it a young one or?
The retic was a yearling.
Yeah. Okay. So still young enough where
like a normal, a normal mainland.
Still okay. So that's still a decent sized snake. It's bigger than all of his ball pythons already.
Yeah.
But yeah, we never had good luck with selling retic. So
I struggle with it inside because I just know that if I was 19 and thought that I knew what I was getting myself into, I still would be in for a rude awakening 4 years later.
Yeah. Dang, I can see how that bite ended up. If that snake grabbed him like that and then just went grind him, good Lord.
Oh, that was on a video?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that's the snake. It's not even that big. I think it's just what you're saying, Riley. It's just how he was bit.
Oh, right? Yeah. I mean, we all know how baby carpets, when they flail and they do that, imagine. So you grab a baby and it's and it flails and grabs and starts doing this. Imagine an adult going, and then just
ow.
Oh, that would hurt so.
In the hospital, yep.
Yeah, that's about right.
Man.
Hey, gotta respect it, man. It doesn't need to be a 20-foot snake to mess you up.
Good Lord, that's bad. Anybody want to buy a carpet python?
So, carpet pythons.
Carpets and coffee.
Dude, you know what's really funny is I'll check my YouTube comments in the YouTube studio periodically, and I made a video last year or early this year about how big do carpet pythons get. I did a video on males and then a video on females.
I remember that.
So two things stand out. One, I get a lot of folks from Australia that love to tell me how authentically Australian they are and that they've seen bigger or heard of bigger, right? Everybody. One guy is I'm on a TV show. I've researched this population. He claims there's some that get 16 feet. I'm like, you do you, buddy. I can't say one way or the other, but I can tell you there's no carpet python out of the 100 in here that is over 8 feet. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's my experience. So I get a lot of people doing that, but then I also get people that are just absolutely up in arms about oh, that's not true. They're huge. I thought they're big and bitey and
coastals are 12 feet most.
Yeah, I still get that. I'm like, what?
Yeah. No, it's for people that aren't in our little bubble. The general consensus for reptile people that aren't carpet people is definitely that coastals get 8 to 10 feet. That's the misconception that I think is most common about
Well,
carpets.
and like you go look up at Sunshine Gold Coast Snake Catcher's Instagram or whatever it is, and you'll see him pulling like big old carpet pythons, like what recently, like holding 4 coastals by the tail. He's like 4 from one house, and it's like a shot from down here, holding them up over his head, and it looks like they're 9-foot monsters. And it's like,
Yeah.
come on, people. You know those things are like 7 feet at best, 8 feet. Like,
Are you accusing him of the fisherman's tactics of holding the fish close to the camera?
100%. 100%. But he wasn't the one posting saying anything about size. But like that's the impression I
Right.
get. Like I'll go check my YouTube analytics, and those videos get commented on frequently, despite them being relatively old and outdated at this point. And I swear, I've only had like one person be like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see somebody not, power feeding their animals to massive sizes." 99% of the responses are, "I'm from Australia and I know they get bigger, or I've heard of bigger, or I've studied populations that bigger, or I've seen that." And it's like,
Right.
okay, yeah. So if we're looking at a bell curve, there's like a handful of them at that far end, the
Right.
outliers that maybe get bigger than 8 feet.
They might
But
be
then
30 years old. It might have been 10 years since their last clutch.
Yeah. But then there's that bell curve, the meat and potatoes of the population that are in the 5 to 7 foot range.
Yeah, it's sort of, well, I have a couple comments with that, right? It's sort of the thing that Justin and Nick always say, where they're kind of like, just because somebody found one that's 13 feet doesn't mean that all of them are 13 feet. Just like if there's a 8-foot human being, it doesn't mean that what you're saying with the bell curve thing, but it's like, 100%. And then even myself, I have been guilty of this, and this is sort of where me and Rob have sort of come up with it. When we found that OP, the Owen, it was kind of like, he cracks up like when me and Owen will talk about it and talk about the size of it, and just like our perception of what it was as opposed to his perception of what it was. Even that scrub python that we found on the first trip, right? I'm saying, yeah, easily it's, it was this, 6 foot or whatever. And it's like, and then Rob like breaks down like, well, look at me holding it. Look how tall I am. And, and goes through it. And then he's kind of like, you're wrong, man. But it's not that you're, again, and I actually saw the animal and I'm saying it's the wrong size. So like, I don't know. I think it's like that perception that it's like, if it's a big snake, it's like 12 foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
that's
it's
super
automatically.
true. I mean, how many people are actually whipping out a string and measuring it,
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at a really big jungle carpet in a 4-foot cage, and she's all the way doubled across the length with her head and her tail touching, like doubled up. She is easily 8 feet plus. And that's a huge female jungle.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty big.
It is possible. Yeah, she's ginormous, dude. I didn't do it. I got her at 10 years old. But yeah, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. And the other thing that I think gets lost in the mix too is carpet pythons in the United States. Our U.S. population has been so isolated for so long too that you could argue that
they're full species. No.
no. I'm not saying if you let them go in Florida and then one has eggs, you've now got Florida native carpets. I'm saying,
I mean,
it's probably happened, but I'm saying that like our population is very distinct from the population that's in Australia, even if we're looking at similar like animals, species, like genomic sequence, regardless of how what we have came from a small sample of what they have, and then it's been run with. Essentially, what they have is a larger sample that's still been running, and so you get different averages, you get different norms, you get different everything.
100%.
I mean, I would argue that the head shape of the wild carpets over in Australia look very different from all of the captive ones here in the United States. When you look at video footage of them, the scalation just looks bigger, tougher, healthier, more vibrant, just different.
Think of
I
Brettles,
agree.
for example. I mean, like our US like typical Brettles is extremely dark compared to the majority of what we see in Australia. You might be able to chalk that up to some UV explanation, or maybe the 10 to 20 founder animals that
Right.
all of ours
We're
are
dark.
descended from were
Right.
dark.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And just by sheer randomness and just by how things shake out, the trajectory the United States population goes as far as breeding subsequent generations is entirely different than everywhere else that has them in captivity, regardless of origin. They could all come from the same thing. You put them in different places for 50 years, they're going to look different at the end of those 50 years.
100%, because it's artificial selection at that point.
Yes. Yeah. So I think when we get into these weird little discussions where we're like trying to iron out details, that's like one of the variables that tends to get overlooked. And I would argue that like the population is probably different for what's in Europe, from what's in Australia, from what's in the United States, from what's wherever else.
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys. What do you, and I'm just throwing this out there as I heard you talking about this, but like, as we're breeding, right, and we're keeping animals smaller, let's say, right? Let's say that the trend over the last 10 years, 5 years, or whatever has been that males don't need to be as big. And, basically, females don't need to be huge and overweight and all this stuff. So you're looking at like, 3 to 4 foot male carpet pythons. Do you think that keeping them at that size and maintaining them at that size is going to sort of transfer over time to become that's what they grow to?
Yes.
Or is that possible? Or am I being stupid? Okay.
No, that's exactly how selective breeding works.
Right. Okay.
In my mind, and maybe in my mind, when I think about that question, you kind of have to draw the line between the genetic predetermined genetic code for
like the
size
maximums and minimums
and environmental factors of feeding, right? So if I have a carpet that everything in its genetic code is pushing for a larger size, but I still don't let it because I just barely feed it,
bonsai,
then I would think that its genetic code that it passes on to its offspring is not going to be altered. It's still going to be a recombination of mom and dad's genes for height or length, et cetera, et cetera. So how I treat that animal doesn't change what's in the code. But if I am somebody who only buys small snakes, my odds of the code reflecting smaller animals is a lot higher because maybe I'm buying a snake that was fed a lot more than what I feed my snakes, but it's still small because it's genetically coded to be smaller. I think that's when selection would occur, because selection, in my understanding, can't be influenced by how we manipulate the environment. It would only be manipulated by which genes we decide should be passed down. And I think that's what's tricky with snake size, because with humans, our size vertically, our vertical orientation is completely genetic. I can eat as much as I want. I can drink milk as a child. I was going to be 5'8". I can eat 5 million calories a day. I will still be 5'8", and I'll be fat as hell. But with a snake, it's not a direct comparison, because we keep feeding them. They keep growing.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. Does any of that make sense? Am I rambling?
No, I kind of follow what you're saying. I just am trying to figure out, to what Riley's saying, like, when does that become selective? So basically what you're saying is they always possess the ability to get
so I guess my
to
question,
a certain size.
And so Travis Wyman, when you get to this point in the video, let me know. I guess my question is, to what degree is a snake size written in genetic code, or I guess potential for size, right? Some snakes are going to have the potential to be huge. Some snakes, no matter what you do, aren't going to have that potential, because that's the genetic side of the equation. And then what percentage of it is simply food intake, environmental factors?
So how would you explain say, a dwarf retic or a dwarf boa from these islands
Perfect.
where they're going to
Yeah.
these islands and they're sort of
So a dwarf retic that is a locality on an island, that population has naturally selected for the smaller individuals. And I guess all things being equal, we're assuming that the relative prey abundance for each specimen on that island is roughly the same. But for whatever reason, being the smaller snake in the clutch favored that animal over generations to the point where small became the normal. For whatever reason, it's just like the dwarf mammoths on the Channel Islands. Some normal sized mammoths swam out there, got on the Channel Islands, and only the smaller ones survived, which is why it became a dwarf population. But that is in the genetics, that's in the code. If you take a dwarf mammoth and feed it like crazy, it's never going to turn into a regular mammoth from generations past.
I guess that would be my question, right? How does that code change? Is it the fact that, like, I would think, to sort of what Riley's saying, it's sort of like selecting for that smaller size. So like over time, that code is going to change.
I think
am I following you right?
Yes, if we're selecting for animals that are truly smaller because of their genetics, then 100%. But I'm saying where we get potentially a little thrown off with snakes is that we have more control over their size than what the genetics would tell us. There's stunt. So, you can stunt. You can hold the genetics back to an extent.
So
because
let
if
me
you're
ask
not
this
feeding it, it's not growing.
Right. So let me ask this question: could you take that dwarf retic, and if it then went to the mainland where the big retics are,
right,
would then does it still potentially have that code to where it could grow to the size of a mainland retic?
I think that would have to happen over generations, and it would need to be selected for where the larger babies are the ones that succeed.
I might have to have another cup of coffee to get this under my head.
What I don't believe with my knowledge of genetics is that the genetic code for being a giant snake, it's not an on or off switch that a dwarf retic just turned off and then from one generation to another went from 20 foot to 10. It was a gradual transition.
Food availability,
and of random inheritance,
right,
random variation, random mutation, where in a clutch of the founding animals that got on that island, maybe some of them were genetically predisposed to be 20 feet, maybe some of them were just predisposed to be 19 feet, maybe some of them could only hit 15 feet, and maybe the ones that only had a maximum of 15 feet are the ones that made it. And then over and over and over again for hundreds of generations, that worked its way all the way down to the 7 or 8 foot maximum that we see in those populations or whatever it is. Again, this is just my understanding of it. I'm no expert or geneticist, but
well, if you're not an expert, I'm screwed. Because
I don't know. Riley, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess the main point I'm just trying to hammer home is that snakes presented an interesting case for our cognition of this concept.
Yeah.
And how we understand it, because we can influence their size so much with food, whereas you or I are going to be our height no matter how much we eat.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
That's what I mean. We're only going to grow outward.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, if we're talking about artificially selecting for anything, it has to be rooted in what genes we are allowing to be passed down through selection. Me deciding not to feed my snake is not going to make its babies smaller.
Sure. Yeah. I guess originally the question that I was asking is over generations as you're keeping smaller snakes,
right?
Is that somehow going to be passed down?
Yes, if they're smaller because of their genetics and not just because I decided not to feed them.
Okay, now I get it. Okay. All right.
Okay, sorry.
That I get. Okay. Very good.
Sorry, I might have just completely ran in circles for 10 minutes over something that could have been a
No.
sentence.
It was I enjoy those conversations. It gets my brain thinking, you know. I mean,
Okay.
It's I don't know. I'm just a random dude that keeps snakes in a room.
Don't sell yourself short. You are a wealth of knowledge in your own right. But I think I remember listening to Travis Wyman on one of the Herpetoculture Network episodes, and I think Phil asked him, like, with this idea of artificial selection mind, where's the limit? Can I breed a venomless rattlesnake? If I breed the rattlesnake in every clutch with the least amount of venom to the one with the least amount of venom, and then over generations and generations, I select for less venom until there just is none. And Dr. Wyman was like, yeah, take a really long time, but you could totally do that because that's a genetic choice. I don't know. That idea stuck with me that truly anything is possible if you have enough generations and enough time, and you're measuring something that is resultant of genetic information, not environmental factors.
But I would imagine that keeping animals in captivity really would be difficult because there's so many to judge that, right? Because
that's the trick.
The wild is, and I think to the whole point of all this is sort of Riley's point is like when we're comparing, like, so when we're on Mario Python Radio or you're doing a YouTube video or whatever, we're talking about our perspective from United States captive bred carpet pythons, which, let's be real, that's what most people are looking. You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking to scientists, we're talking to herpers, right? So they want to know, if I keep a carpet python, what is the size of said snake going to be, right? And for somebody that's going to argue with you in Australia that, well, there's populations that get 15 feet. Yes, I'm sure there is. Maybe, like, I don't know. I'm not in Australia and I haven't been all through every population of carpet python. However, that's null and void because they're not here and we're not dealing with that. So I don't understand. Yeah. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
do think that absolutely, if we're fortunate enough as a species to get a few more 100 years out of this whole experiment, and there's a lot of captive generations of carpets, and we don't ever have exchange from the US to Australia, absolutely down the line you'll be like, that does not look like that anymore. That's just inevitable because there's no mixing. If you took two population or sorry, if you took one population of like a finch, for example, and they're the same damn thing, they're the same species, they breed, yada yada, you drop them on two different islands and they never mix, you give it enough time, they're not going to be the same thing anymore. Whether it's natural or artificial selection, the selection is not going to be identical when the period of time is long enough. Yeah,
you could sort of see a huge, to what you said earlier, Riley, the when you look at a wild carpet, their head structure of a coastal carpet, let's say, as opposed to what we have in the US, completely different, in my opinion. The jowls are bigger and it's just a different, shape. Maybe that's from inbreeding, maybe. I don't know.
That's another factor that we like to pretend is not there, but yeah. 100%.
I want Brettle the size of Antaresia.
That would be sweet.
That would be cool.
And I could have so many.
Yes. Cool.
That would be neat.
Anyway.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Genetic brain twister.
Yeah. Did you get anything new this week, Riley?
No. Thank God. I've got a fucking wedding to pay for.
Oh, yeah. I remember that year.
Yeah, that's gonna be expensive as shit.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to get my male boa cabana. IJ. So
yeah. it seems that you are having some troubles with that, my friend, when it comes to people sending you snakes.
Yeah, it's
It
all
happens.
good.
It happens.
Human
works out.
error. I'll forgive it. You know, I'm sure it won't be the last time. I'm sure I'll do it in my future. You know, it is what it is. You know,
Shit, I did it to Owen.
it.
It's like, damn you.
That's
Gosh.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It happens. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got that female. Here's speaking of feeding potential. Genetics feeding a female like a male, and then all of a sudden it's 5-6 years old and it's tiny. And now this female zebra is like 12 years old or more, and only will eat small rats and is not growing at all.
Huh.
The variable in there too that I think we forget is, or that maybe hasn't been fully fleshed out, is in what window of time are they capable of achieving those growth potentials? Is it limited? Is it at a certain time it slows down regardless of those years before? Like if they aren't getting the food intake for the first 3 years, but then something changes and all of a sudden they're getting appropriate food intake, are they going to catch up to what they should have been, at a certain time frame, or will they always have those 3 years that they've missed out on? And because it's earlier in life, you don't get that exponential growth rate, and then they're stunted. Is it within a window that you can fix it and then catch up to normal size, or at a certain point, the size they're at is like kind of limiting their trajectory?
Man, and it's so hard too, because like normal size completely depends on those genetic predetermined factors too.
Yeah, there's too many variables. There's population
so many
variables. Yeah, I mean, this female, I swear, she's maybe that big around.
Right.
Like almost looks like she probably wouldn't be capable of producing a clutch. But then I've seen, Darwins that have produced clutches that small and all sorts of stuff. So, I'm not going to rule that out. But that's another one of those questions that like.
Yeah.
Like if you were to keep a baby carpet python on the bare minimum amount of food to keep it alive for 5 years,
Right,
and then start feeding it, would it grow to an adult size normally or not?
it's a great question. I think
so. Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, I think the question boils down to, is the rate of growth relative to caloric intake constant throughout the life, or do you have a window when you're younger where it's accelerated? Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I the reason I think about it is because I think about in terms of like crocodilians, the first 35 years is like if you're looking at a graph, it's like exponential, and then at 35 it's sort of like almost plateaus, but then they kind of have this incremental growth, like indeterminate incremental growth the rest of their life. So the first 35 years is crucial, and you can absolutely stunt an alligator. So within the first like 10 years, if they don't get that food intake, they're never reaching the top of that bell curve.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's biological factors too. We're talking alligators and snakes in the same conversation. Those are two entirely different animals.
Yeah. I love this though. We're getting into some meaty stuff today.
We take a couple weeks off, and it's nerd alert here.
Yeah.
I like it. So for me, here's been my experience, right? Is that when raising babies, I sort of don't really feed all, I feed during the winter, but not nowhere near what other people would. You could definitely notice a difference between something that, I maintained and produced, but then you look at what, like Riley's citrus tiger head albino. I mean, he got that, and she's a good size, right? I mean, she's as big as the mom, easy. So my initial thought would be, I'm sure there's probably a point where, and maybe I'm not going the absolute bare minimum, but there's a huge chunk of time. And well, now that I'm thinking of it, does it matter that it would be so over the course of the year? Let's say that, a snake can eat and I'm just throwing a number out there, 30 rats or 30 mice or whatever it would be. But it's just when I choose to feed as opposed to when somebody else chooses to feed. So reality, it might be that my snakes might take longer because they're not growing during that period, right? Does that make sense? And then all of a sudden when I start to feed them, then they start to put on size very quickly. And maybe at the end of the day, they catch up to be the same size. I mean, would you look at it from like, when I say season, I'm going to say year. Like if you're feeding 30 and I'm feeding 30, but my 30 happens within 3 months as opposed to your 30, which happens over the course of the entire year. Would that make a difference, do you think? I would think it wouldn't, right? Still 30.
I mean, yeah, calorically, if it's within a window that the animal can process whatever it's getting at the same rate, then I would think, in theory, if that's, it should grow the same. I think to the extreme, on the opposite end, you can really push it like to a ridiculous number, very easy, very early, and then get them beyond, what they would otherwise be capable of.
Right.
Like if you were to feed an animal at whatever other rate versus like a heavy rate from day one, every other animal fed at a normal rate probably won't hit the size of that super slam power fed from day one animal. I would think a 25-year-old carpet python fed at a very sparing, healthy rate would never achieve the size of a carpet python that's like fed every 3 days for its entire life.
Right.
Because that thing's going to get, 10 feet and have a heart attack at 3 years old or something.
It's weird. I remember this guy wanted to give me a jag, and this was years ago. And he did the typical keep it as a pet, fed it a big rat every week, regardless, year round. That would just eat this rat. And like, you don't realize what an overweight snake looks like until you see something like that. And you're just like, wow. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this carpet python was humongous.
Yeah.
There is a morbidly obese coastal in the back at the vivarium.
Really?
Somebody donated, surrendered it, like we didn't do it. But I actually took pictures of that animal to send to Nick for the discussion of obesity in the book because it's huge. Like overstuffed sausage.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah. You get the rolls and everything. It just you can tell when it's not right. And I've said this before on the show. Like snakes are not designed to store fat subcutaneously like we are under the skin. It first manifests in the body cavity and around the organs. So when it gets to the point that you're literally able to see it, you're so far gone.
Yeah.
Because the inside is already inundated with adipose tissue.
What's strange is like when I look at my citrus tiger female, right? She's a 2009. So what is she? 11 years old, 12 years old, something like that.
13.
13, right? So she's thick and she's solid, but she's maybe 4.5, 5 foot, if that.
Right.
But I think because of her small size, like lengthwise, she appears to be a little bit thicker, but not overweight. And I wonder, I'm really leaning towards, how I'm looking at keeping snakes and all, and like with being able to perch. But I don't know, man. I'm sort of seeing like from keeping carpet pythons and racks, when I'm putting them back into the tub, their tail just doesn't have like, you know how like when you have a baby carpet, it's like that tail is just wrapping around whatever it can wrap around.
Right.
And I just don't see that same, muscle strength. And I wonder, I don't know. I wonder if that makes a difference for the overall health. I mean, she seems good. She doesn't seem fat, but like when you look at other snakes I have,
I mean, there's certain things with snakes and things like carpets where we can't directly compare to our own physiology anatomy,
Correct.
like the,
Right.
food consumption equaling vertical orientation thing, like I was talking about earlier. We can't compare that. But I think one thing that is directly comparable is musculature. It's either you work out that muscle and it's strong, or you don't, and it's weak. I think that's directly comparable. So if we think about a carpet climbing a tree as like a person who does 20 curls a day, those muscles are going to be a lot more, developed and stronger in both cases than the person that doesn't, or the snake that doesn't get to climb a tree. I think that can be directly compared.
But their muscle anatomy would be different, right? Because they're ambush predators, so they're designed to be able to stay in a spot for a good length of time without moving muscles. But I guess
yes and no, because how much do they have to move to get into a good ambush position? They're not completely sedentary,
right,
and they quite literally climb, which takes a lot more physicality than burying yourself under some leaf litter.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Well, I guess when you look at something like a carpet python as opposed to something like a gaboon viper or a blood python, which is basically, I mean, am I wrong to think that they're pretty much sedentary, that they're going to pile under a thing of leaf litter and just sort of wait?
You are not wrong at all.
Right. Okay. So
that's all they do.
I guess my question would be, and I don't know the answer to this, it might be out there, but have there been radio tracking studies of the various carpets to see the average distance traveled between, site A and site B?
I think Shine did some work with that, I believe.
Because that would be what I looked to. When I looked to that information for womas specifically, it was an average of a third of a mile between, rest spot and prey consumption. So, they're putting in the miles.
Right.
So I guess, how much is a carpet really moving and exercising in the wild? How much action does that tail really get when they're allowed to use it and have to use it? Because it's not only just chasing down food too. They might have to be moving up and down a vertical gradient for thermoregulation throughout the day. If we're talking about a day where the temperature fluctuates 20, 30 degrees night and day, they're not going to be able to be sedentary if they want to be comfortable during that entire period.
And I would think that if they're, say, it's cooler down on the jungle floor, that they would want to move up, and they could probably get into a spot higher up in the canopy to where they might find a spot where they could bask and, just a little where they could get more heat, if you will. So moving up and down,
exactly
regulate, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think, bottom line, the snakes that are allowed to climb in captivity are going to have more developed musculature than snakes that are curled up all day, and don't have that option to grip onto something with the tail and work on those that tonality.
Right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, sure, for sure.
It's kind of interesting, like when people that keep the carpets outside feel a difference in the skin. It's like that's the environmental factor coming into play, that's changing the physiology.
I guess they would have to be tougher, right? I mean, you're probably out in the, I guess
everything's harsher.
Yeah. It's funny, Riley, you were talking about your Boa Cabana IJ, and here is the you said it came from, so here is like one of their founding stock. But I look at, like, you see how you can't really, to me, this is kind of a chunky fat carpet, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but like,
looks like a big girl to me.
Yeah, when I can't
love
see
the stripe,
that definite. Yeah, this is where the tiger IJ came from, as you can see.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And then I don't know. Wait, the male, just so you have it. I'll have to send these pictures to you so you have them. But
I have one photo of one of their original imports from 1993. That's nice and perched in like a traditional chondro perch on a branch with a great stripe.
Nice.
That's the male.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
Deer antler perches. Nice.
That's pretty badass.
That is pretty cool. I didn't notice that. All
It's
right.
That's clever.
Yeah, not bad.
That's
cool.
cool.
Right on.
Those are sick. Yeah, it's I gave 8 baby carpets those 3D printed perches.
Yeah, how did that go?
Not a single one has used them.
Son of a bitch.
Not one.
Really?
Not a one.
Huh.
I even like when I gave it to them, I put them on. I was like, "Here, learning experience. Here's a perch," and they all went "fuck you" and ran off. And like they're all like, "No." Now it made me start to question if they'd had that from the moment they hatched, would it be different? Because we're talking animals that are 5-6 months old.
Possibly.
Is that, and how much of that translates from their parental like innate behaviors? If their parents were raised in cages or racks that don't have perches and they don't have that behavior to pass on, is that something innate? Is that learned? Is that instinctual? Like, yeah, I'm gonna explode Lucas's head on today's episode.
Lucas is
Carpets
like,
and
too many
coffee.
questions.
No, now we're getting into nature versus nurture.
Right. Yeah, I love that one because that
Yeah.
one brings up
That's
even more
trippy.
questions.
I mean, when you talk about nature versus nurture in people, it's especially trippy. Like,
you can see it in 3 generations in people.
Yeah, I have a just really quick tangent, but I have a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
friend who's a photographer who was adopted, and when she finally met her biological father at like 18 or 19 years old, I want to say, they're literally the same person. He's also a photographer, and they had never met. You know, she was raised by completely other people, not artistic people. Super weird. Anyway, back to snakes.
Yeah. I think about that stuff. You know, I think, was it Dr. Loafman or Travis Wyman or somebody, they were talking about it in relation to the health of future generations of offspring in snakes that are fed improper diets, like wild snakes that would naturally eat lots of birds, frogs, and lizards in captivity are getting a bunch of rodents. You then have future deficiencies in subsequent generations as a result of this improper diet. Is there something that could be said for that in terms of behavioral experience being passed on? And so, you know, that term that somebody asked me, like, was it rack raised? And I was like, feels dirty. It's like, how dare you say that to me?
No, I have 300
but now I'm like, well, that's not such an invalid question if they're asking for, like, is this an animal that's used to being in a display? Or is this an animal that's used to being in something tiny, small, and sheltered? Like, if that's the question, then it's like, okay, that's interesting, because as it pertains to these perches, these animals were born into a world where they were instantly given secure enclosures with hides on the ground, heat from the ground, water bowls that are elevated so if they go up to find their water. It's not just in the ground somewhere you go down a mountain for water. So, like, if you were to put them in different environments after that's what they're used to, are they going to adjust? Will they ever? Will that be a generational thing? If you were to give them their parents, like if you were to give their parents a vertical cage, perches, and the water bowl was sunk into the ground, like it was ground level, to go down, you're down, and then you take their babies and do that for a couple generations, and then all of a sudden flip the script, put the adults in cage, or put the babies in tubs and see how they do. Like, what would that do?
So my initial thought is that innate instinct, I don't think, can be recalibrated in one generation.
Fair. I would agree with that.
So my question then is, in the wild, are our carpet python babies being born more often than not off the ground, or are they being born on the ground? Because if they're being born off the ground, then our boreality is the instant reality. That's all you know the second you're alive. If they're born on the ground, maybe the pressure is you better get off the ground as quick as possible before your chow.
Right.
But something is driving them off the ground.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of documentation of baby carpets in the field,
exactly. But if there
No.
was no pressure driving them off the ground, they wouldn't have evolved to be arboreal.
So according to, and again, this is just one off, but like Gavin Bedford's
Right.
Thesis that he did was on the Darwin carpets, and when he was telling us about that sometimes the female would lay the eggs in the trees, like in the hollow of a tree, bird nest, whatever, like that kind of thing, or they would lay them on the ground. However, where the carpets would go would be along the bush. The babies would kind of go along the bush, because this was something that I was talking to Justin about when we were in Texas. About this, that there's really, he's really said it to me. He's like, well, how do we know? We really don't know what baby carpets do. And I was like, fair play. I mean, but I would think that they're going to that level probably more for prey. No, I mean, if they're feeding on skinks and such, and frogs and stuff like that, geckos, I would think that that's why they're in that range. But they're really not on the ground per se, where you would find a baby carp. That doesn't mean that they're never on the ground, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of the Stropharis and the Oeodura and stuff are in low ground bushes and things. So yeah, right. that would make sense that the small prey item, either in little ground holes or
right.
like in the bushes right off the ground, would coincide with the younger animals that then predate upon them in that area. And then the adults being up in trees going after the birds, the marsupials. Yeah. Right. So that does make sense. But also there are predators, there are crocodiles, there are goannas, there are things that also encourage, safety off the ground to some degree. So there's probably several variables at play. And then, how many generations do you need to get away from the wild animals to change that drive to go up in the captive populations? That's another question.
Right.
But then there's so much personality variation too. Like, I've got animals that never come off their little 3D printed perches, and then some that they want nothing to do with it. They love a paper towel roll tube, and they're like, cool.
Yeah.
Right. So,
man, that's the nature of it. I mean, they're not all going to be carbon copies, and the ones whose personality is conducive to survival are who are going to pass that all on, right? So nature's crazy because they're not all supposed to live. So you're going to have some in the clutch that
that's another thing too. Like,
right.
Those ones that we assist feed into survival, that we limp along to do well.
In your clutch there, maybe the one or two that inherently see a perch and think, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe those are the ones that live, and maybe your other ones were meant to be monitor food.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the complexity of it is what is so incredible.
Yeah, interestingly enough, right? So I've been the diamond pythons. So I had these branches and stuff that were in their cages, and they freaking loved them, right? But there must have been some kind of like, I don't know, like a wood mite or something like that. So I had to rip everything out and start all over again, and let the cages go and right? So I cleaned off all the wood and got some new branches and stuff. And I know this is in my mind, but you know how like when you look at a snake and you just because you know what it looks like at normal, something seems off, right? So like when the diamond pythons over here just had the bare cage, it seemed like something was off. I don't know how to explain it. It just they weren't sitting right. They looked anxious, or I don't know. So I just put in the perches last Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and they have not been on the ground since. Which is interesting. It's weird that I never would in the past, right? I've had adult carpets that have been in cages, and the reason that I moved away from perches is because they never used it. But now why all of a sudden is it just that maybe it's my idea of what maybe it was the perches that it had to, this is my thought, is that my idea of perching back in, say, 2010 is completely different than my idea of how a carpet python perches, say, now in 2021. You know, if that makes sense. It's not really a chondro type of deal. It's more of an Amazon tree boa type of deal where they're sort of doing that. You know, I've said it a lot of times where they're sort of doing multiple points of contact with the perch,
Right.
And that's kind of what they do. But the interesting thing and why it leads me to believe that, perching can make a difference in the strength of, say, the prehensile tail is that you can immediately see them using that to anchor themselves to those perches. And when I pull out the diamond pythons to, say, clean their cage or something like that, they immediately will wrap that tail, as opposed to the carpets that I have in racks where they do not.
Interesting.
I don't know.
This snake has one of the ladder style.
Oh, okay.
Under the fucking paper.
Huh.
I don't know, but makes me feel good knowing they have the option.
Yeah. I guess at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right?
They have the option.
Providing the animal with multiple options that they can make the decision on where they want to go, And I think maybe the mistake that I've made over the past, say, 10 years is that as soon as I see them not using the option, I take it away.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not using that option at a particular time of year or, and I'm just assuming, oh, you don't use it, you don't need it. And,
Yeah, I mean, for all I know, every single one of those babies could use those perches at night. And as soon as I'm asleep, they're like, sweet, we're up. And
That's true.
Then as soon as the lights are on, they're like, fuck that guy. Yeah, who knows, man? I think starting to give these animals more options and do things it coincides with the drive to want to have fewer animals and more setups where you can see them and give them those options,
I think that's the cool thing. This is kind of where I'm at in my snake reptile keeping time, is like to observe those behaviors and sort of like have a better understanding of them. If you provide those options, you're going to start to see certain behaviors over the course of, say, a long period of time, as opposed to a shorter period of time where in the past it's like, oh, it's 3 weeks it's been in there, you haven't used it, throw it away, don't need it. Whether it's that fencing that you would use, like I've used that for baby carpets, the 3D perches, what you got going on, all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, there's something to be said for giving them the option, even if they don't use it, because you never know. As soon as you take it away, they might notice and something else could change.
Yeah.
For the worse. I don't know.
Stuff.
Yeah. The next thing I need to figure out is what I can give my Apodora. Dude, they're
whole tree
all over the damn place. These things, they're just like, as soon as lights are on, they're like, whoop, just doing laps in the cage, just like having a good old time.
Yeah.
I would like to find ways to give them something, but you put those suckers in glass front cages with lights and you give them a territory to defend. They've got that instinct. They have that. No problem.
Do yours do sort of that, like they don't really bite, but sort of like a punch type of thing?
Oh, no, mine bite.
Oh.
Yeah, mine like to just go straight to the bite. They're like, screw you, this is our home. And I was like, yeah, it's yours. You're all yours.
Is it mostly a cage defensive thing? When you get them out, they're all right?
100%. Actually, if they bite you in the cage and then you take your hand out, they're like, oh shit, I broke the rules.
There's something about those snakes that, if I'm being honest, intimidate me more so than, say, something like a retic.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I think it's the intelligence factor.
they have something back there that you're like, yeah, there's a switch that's broken in you, and I don't trust you 100%.
Yeah.
Like that one friend that you always keep around in case there's a bar fight because you know he's gonna fuck shit up the most, and you'll just be fine. It's like that. I will say I'm enjoying having them because they're much more active and give me a lot more feedback than a lot of the carpets. The carpets are in a routine. They're comfortable. These things, they're never comfortable per se. Like they never act like they're settled in. They'll do like patrols and then nap, and then patrols and then nap, and then patrols and then nap. It's like they're always assessing their environments. They're never settled in. But I think I like the cypress mulch for them more than the paper and the cocoa blocks. The paper, I'm having to do full cage cleans a couple times a week.
Right.
And I like to spray them down and keep it humid, so I accelerate the deterioration of the paper liners by spraying the water in there.
Sure.
The cocoa blocks, I don't know if anybody listening has had this experience, but it almost seems to wick the moisture out of the environment and like evaporate it too much. Like and I can see it in the female, like her spectacle scales, they don't look as crisp. It almost looks like they're dehydrated, not rippled and wrinkled.
Right.
And her skin looks fine. But if you look at the eyes of the male versus the eyes of the female, his are clear. Everything looks healthy and vibrant. And in his cage, like, I'll spray it down and it'll like fluctuate. It'll ebb and flow with its moisture based on the time of the day. The females will do that immediately after a spray down, and then that's it. It's just like the cocoa block just sucks it all up. And I just feel like it's dehydrating the enclosure without me having to like hose the whole thing down. And then it just stays so fluffy that every time they go to the bathroom, it just goes straight to the bottom. So you can't see it. So you have to pull it. So I think I'm done with cocoa blocks for at least the Apodora. I don't like it. I like the cypress mulch. They flatten it down a bit. Their urates and things stay on top so I can see them. And then it's easy for me to just take a snake hook and just fluff it all up, spray it down, and it's fresh as I want. So
I'm with you. I've never really loved the coconut. I know that it has its purpose sometimes, but I've always preferred the cypress to the cocoa blocks.
If they made the coconut chips half the size they were, totally different experience.
Big chunks.
They like the big chunks. And at first I was like, that's, it makes sense. Like if you're talking about a ball python, which is what it was made for, and you're using them in racks, a big poop or a big urate in the corner of the tub, it's going to sit right on the cocoa blocks and you can really get, so like that I get, but like, unless you're seriously hosing them down with like a shop hose, even those tubs get really, really dehydrated.
Right.
I don't know, just something I thought I'd throw out there, but
I use coconut, the blocks, but I kind of mix it with dirt and with sand, so I'm not just using it straight, but I could see what you're saying,
Yeah.
I find that at least with the monitors, that sand sort of gives it some firmness so they can burrow, and especially with the Kimberleys, that like, dude, they have tunnels going all through the bottom of
the sand is like heaven for monitors. It just allows them to hold shape and dig and get all that energy out. For absolutely.
My adult Ackie, I did a mixture of like an organic orchid mix and a bunch of sand. And that holds it pretty well. He's got tunnels too, which he disappears like right before sundown.
That's pretty much what we gave all the monitors at the shop, is like play sand, orchid mix, a little bit of peat moss or sphagnum moss, and that was it.
For sure.
Just big old bags of it, hundreds of pounds of it. Just mix it all up.
So I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I thought I was gonna be bummed out having a lizard that gets to burrow, but not at all, because he's out all day. He only burrows to sleep, so it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
I find it interesting. Like my Ackies, for instance, like they each have one has one side of the cage, and the other has the other. And sort of the way I have it is there's sort of a cork bark stack on the one side, and that's right under the hot spot.
That's your REIT stack.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done.
So they kind of like the one goes underneath there, like deep down under the substrate, and then the other one I sort of have like this log that goes across, and it's where they would bask for UV. Interestingly enough, I've said it for quite a bit that I haven't noticed them basking for the UV, but as of recently, I have, which is it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's a confidence thing in the cage. Like they feel more confident now, you know, and they're able to come out. But
is your heat and UV unit separate enough to be able to distinguish what they're seeking out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the UV's on the one side and the heat's on the other.
Yeah. We've got those new UV LED bulbs in, and so we put them in with all of our monitors, all the dragons, all the tortoises, everybody, and it's amazing to see when you've got a ceramic heat bulb on one side and a UV bulb on the other side. See them literally go back and forth to like, okay, I'm going to wake up, start my day under the ceramic, and then after about an hour, I'm going to go over to the UV bulb.
Yeah, I have the perfect room set up for monitors because I have this huge window that's in front of me and the sun will come up and my system is set up so that it's like a Wi-Fi thing that the lights will come on based off of when sunrise is.
Yeah.
So they'll get that sort of like, it's not like immediately lights are on. They sort of get like this ramping up, you know? And I have it timed to where I'll have the UV go on first and then the hotspot will go on after that.
Nice.
So pretty cool.
That's cool. It's fun being able to see that.
Yeah, man. I never thought I would say it, but monitors are pretty badass. You know? I mean, they're always badass, but like, you know, I can see why people, you know, really like sort of get into them and then, you know, they go crazy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
I did pick up so April, Justine, she was getting rid of her pair of Australian barking geckos.
Yeah, her Underwoodosaurus, her Humilii, those are cool.
So it's a hypo and a normal, and she sent them out this week. And it was cool because she had a baby too from the offspring, and I gave my sister the baby, and you know, she was over the moon with that, you know. But I gotta say, man, you know, you see them in pictures and stuff is one thing, but they're pretty freaking badass little geckos, man.
Yes, they are.
You know? I'm like,
all the knobbies and the barking geckos and the broadtails out there, they have attitude, man. They act like they're freaking monitors. They don't take a shit from anybody. They'll stand up and just I
gotta admit it. I didn't have love for geckos until we got to geckos in graduate herpetology, and now I respect them and I think they're pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, but they are like
either, man.
They're the most divergent, like out there lizards that are not extinct. Like they are the most unrelated to everything else that we have left.
Really?
And I didn't know, but like I don't know when you like really digest that and think about what that means. It's crazy. And like, I don't know, just the way they stick their feet to things with electric charges, like it's not even real sticky. They're like literally electric.
Yeah, the Van der Waals force of the setae and all the hairs. Just
I didn't even know that.
Millions and millions of contact points that create that energy, and it's smaller than what we can visibly see.
They're aliens. They're like how octopus are aliens. Geckos are kind of aliens.
So Kathy, who's local to me, you know, Kathy Lucas, Eric, Kathy. I'm sure you've heard Kathy. The name. Yeah. What's up, Kathy, if you're listening to this? She's been diving head over heels into a lot of this stuff. And she's already been big into lizards and things with legs, but she just went big and got a killer pair or trio, even I think, of the Stropherus ciliaris.
Ooh,
dude! Oh my gosh! She bought this holdback from the guy who was selling some stuff, and I saw the price tag on them, and I saw the difference between like the other ones and that, and I understood why and the color and I was just like, holy crap! And instantly I was like, where can I put a small, tall Exoterra in the snake room?
Yeah.
Where can I? Bad. No. Dude, they're so wicked. So freaking cool, man.
It's so funny, right? How, and again, we were sort of talking about this last night, and like how we influence things and don't even realize when we're talking on these podcasts how we can influence certain things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird, like me and Nipper a year ago were strictly snake guys with no interest in geckos at all, like not at all, sort of what you're saying, Lucas, and not really appreciating. I mean, you saw them and you would be like, yeah, that's cool. Cool. It's like, no, yeah, okay, cool.
Gecko. Yeah.
But like, dude, he is knee deep in geckos, man. He's like Stropurus all the way, all these different species. He's like, mate, Australian geckos are the way to go.
I don't blame him. Stropurus would be the ones to do it to me too. If I open those floodgates, I am so fucked.
But the thing of it is like the thing that we're saying, right? You can kind of keep, and I think this is the thing that I'm really digging of like where my collection is going towards, like a lot of variability, a lot of different things to sort of keep my mind happy with my collection of what I have, but at the same time not really taking up any more space than I'm already taking up, because you can have a rack of like a baker's rack and keep like you could keep like 8 different species of geckos on this rack without even doing anything,
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty freaking cool, man.
So. I have an unquenchable collector's bug.
I know.
It's really bad. It's really bad. When I was a kid, Pokemon came out, and that didn't help at all. I would get mad. Like I had to get every single thing.
Yes.
And I was a big Pokemon kid.
That's
myself.
Not any different than I am right now. I mean, like right now, I'm sitting here going, okay, I need a house because I still have diamonds on the list. And by the time I get there, Imbricata should have figured themselves out and found their way here. So we need to make room for those.
More inlands, 3.
Yeah, I need more inlands. And then I'm sitting here going, I don't need all of these Brettles, do I? Do I need any Brettles? I can get rid of the Brettles, right? There's enough Brettles out there, right? It's like, Riley, stop it. That's not healthy for you. That's not good for you.
You should hang on to your Brettles. You have nice Brettles.
Yeah, dude. Have one Brettles.
They're not all created equal.
They don't do shit, though. I mean, so I'm like, you guys just sit here and cost me money.
As soon as you
then you're not going to have the complete set. Like you'll have
that's the thing. I know. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I know would happen. I'd get rid of him and be like, all right, I'm moving you here, moving you there. Cool, you're upgrading. Sweet. I got empty spaces. Shit, I'm out of Brettles. Well, I've got open tubs. Time to go get some Brettles. Wait, didn't I just get rid of my Brettles?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so...
And plus, you're going to be able to do something with them as soon as you can get them cold enough. And that's just a matter of your circumstance,
Yeah.
Your snakes aren't the problem.
I'm going to push the low that I take this room to much lower this year. I'm not going to move them into the bathroom this year. I'm just gonna leave the window open and just let them do their thing. Like treat them like the rest of them. I don't know. I don't have the ability to just unplug only that cage and that bin. Right. So like, what do I do? Right. Unless I just put them in bins and leave them ambient, just like sitting in the room, which I could, but I don't have a lot of space. So
I'm having to strategize myself over here on how to accommodate both winter and spring breeders for the first time, because it was really easy when it was just like, okay, Brettle's very cold and put them in the living room, open window, make cold. But now I have to make other things also cold, but less cold.
Well, and here's the other thing, Lucas. I went balls deep in the corn snakes. I'm like, shit.
True.
How do I get those cold?
You did do that.
I went from 0 to 12.
Holy shit. Yeah, wow.
You got some nice ones though. Like,
by the way,
not my cup of tea, but even I can admire the ones that you chose to get.
Man.
Yeah.
They're like carpet pythons. I need all of them. God damn it. It's a really good thing I couldn't find any Slowinski's corns or anything like that, because then it'd be worse. But No, you want to talk about like overcomplicating shit. And I was thinking about for the holiday show, one of my grievances. It relates to my recent corn snake obsession. I'm upset that I've gone so long without them.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's an interesting. So I won't open up those floodgates, and I chose to move away from that because, similar to you, Riley, I will want them all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
you're the same. You are the exact same. I know it.
Yeah.
I saw it from the moment you're like, I need every single python. I was like, hey, I know that feeling. This guy's fucking crazy, just like me.
There's another one like me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Except I have a feeling your dad maybe didn't discourage it as much as others.
No.
I think your dad was probably the root of
he
your
was
problem.
Encouraging it. Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why do you have just that? Why don't you get this? Why don't you get this? You know, and it's like, you know,
and that I'm my own worst enemy.
You know, that's sort of the thing. It's like, as of recent, well, you know, I've talked about it for the past year, but my dad, with his reemergence back into reptiles and like his,
I haven't heard about him for a while. What's the latest?
Well, I think he's produced now 3 clutches of those green, emerald swift or skinks.
The emerald tree skinks.
Yeah.
Those are badass.
Yeah, man.
Those are the coolest skinks, dude.
Yeah. And like he opens up the cage and it jumps on his arm and runs up his arm and shit.
Yeah.
And like,
they don't run to like escape. It's not like a fleeing thing. It's like, I want to be involved.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
They're super cool. We haven't had those in the shop for a while because, like your dad, I think a lot of people saw just the charisma in such a cool green little lizard.
Yeah.
And a couple people made some YouTube videos about him and boom, they became hot again.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
see
can't.
Why, man? Yeah.
I can't get them right now. They're awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of like a better green anole. You know what I mean? Like, I think like a green anole is sort of, well, at least for me, when I was a kid, that was sort of like the go-to lizard. I guess it's sort of still the same. No, I don't know. I'm kind of, that was 40 years ago.
They actually still sell green anoles in the Petco over here.
Really? Yeah. So that was sort of like the go-to lizard. You could keep it in a small terrarium and, you know, it ate mealworms and shit and flies and stuff like that. But
we're talking about the tree skinks, right? Emerald tree skink.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Lampropeltis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're really, really cool.
Lampropeltis smaragdarina.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I like Latin names. I don't know why my brain remembers them very easily.
Yeah. He got the dart frogs. I don't know what species, but they're the yellow and black ones.
Dendrobates leucomelis.
Yes.
Killing it.
Yeah.
I like those a lot. I never got the opportunity to actually take the eggs from them to fruition at the zoo because our population was big enough and related. So that was one species that I bred, but didn't actually get to take all the way.
Right.
Cool.
So that was his a recent addition. He has he's not a fan of crested geckos.
Okay.
Not a fan.
I like lychees more than cressy. For New
They're both filthy. They're both filthy, dude.
His thing is they're kind of boring, you know. He's like, it's kind of cool, but you know,
they're nocturnal. Boring, they are hard nocturnal. You don't see them at all during the day. They don't even like to be visible. They like to hide behind stuff. And you turn on the lights in the morning, you wake up, and they've pooped everywhere, or pissed all over the glass, or destroyed something. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Now I have to look at that.
I'm thinking about, you know, I keep trying to give him a carpet python, but you know he's kind of not going with it. His snake is he's a California king snake. God, this thing is
there. We go.
That's 30, cool.
30 years old.
That's badass.
My native serpent.
Yeah. This thing is been around for a long time, and the cool thing is he keeps it outside during the summer, and he'll bring it inside during the winter.
Wow.
But the whole summer it's outside.
He needs Zonata.
What?
He needs Zonata.
I am
the Mountain
also
Kings.
Clueless.
The Mountain Kings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he could leave those out year round out there. Just put a tiny little something in there to make sure there's a den that stays in the 40s or something. He could keep them year round out there.
Yeah.
They live in the ones that I would find in Santa Barbara and San Ynez Mountains. Occasionally it would snow up there and hit below freezing, and they're out there year round. I mean, they're not out. They brumate and everything, but they're out in areas where it gets freezing. Yeah, I had some I had a pair of Wildcats that I technically legally couldn't have, but I did because you're only allowed to have one per permit holder. But I didn't know at the time. And
I'm telling.
they didn't eat for shit, man. They
Yeah.
they're like, frozen thawed rodent. What is that? Live rodent? Never seen a white mouse before. Sorry, we're not doing that. So they didn't stay with me very long. But
yeah,
man, those and like Pyromelanias, like
Yes.
your dad would, I think that'd be right up his alley. Kill it with those.
Yeah, he's, I think the thing that I'm really enjoying watching him is like, it's kind of like how I feel with music, right? When I was doing music,
go.
if you wanted to, I always related to music.
Let's do it.
Right? But when I was in my heyday of like really being a musician and playing out and doing it, quote unquote pro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that you didn't have the technology to do what you can do today. So you figured out ways around things and ways to do things and sort of get the same result, but really like having to think about how to get from A to B, therefore really understanding the process of going from A to B, if that makes sense, right?
Really, that's the perfect comparison. Like before you had overdrive pedals, you had to understand how to blow out a tube.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
So like it's amazing to see how he still has that mindset of figuring things out from like in the 80s when there was no such things as, all the technology that we have today, UV lights and basking bulbs and
wood box with a light bulb in the ceiling.
Correct. So it's amazing to see what he can do with that understanding and like the cages that he's building without even knowing what's going on in herpetoculture, just because of going to the store and seeing the availability or going online and seeing oh, you can do this with this, and like totally being able to use that. And it's not like he's using it as a crutch per se, but more of an accent, which sort of like really makes what he's doing just freaking amazing. Like it just blows my mind. I mean, I'm like, God damn, I've been doing this for the past 10 years and my setups suck. And you just get back into it. And you're like, I don't know, man. He's got like these, and he is a plant guy too. So like he has a real solid understanding of keeping plants alive and stuff. But yeah, that's what I equate to, the whole like, how do I make this sound like this without having that? And
exactly. Now I'm with you. When you're not spoon fed or when it's not easy, you're forced to get creative, think critically, and like be out of the box a little bit, or at least understand the box better.
100%. Yeah,
pun intended.
Yeah,
our boxes with snakes.
Yeah, like I'm kind of glad that, like, I don't know about you or what your first guitar was or whatever, but like
piece of shit.
Right. My first guitar was a piece of shit too. And sort of my dad's idea is like, because he played guitar before me and his guitar the action was all shitty and like, but if you can make that sound good, your technique, like your hands are 100%. Developing techniques that you don't even know that they're, to mute strings.
And then it just gets easier. Yeah. I think we might have talked about this before. I don't remember where, but my first guitar, I raised $120 cash.
Right.
As a 4th or 5th grader, doing chores, mowing lawns, yada, yada. Went to the local shop and I got a Yamaha.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yes. Like, lawnmowers, outboard motors, Yamaha. I got a Yamaha
keyboards and guitars.
And it was just a black and white rip-off Strat. And it kind of was a piece of trash, but that, like exactly what you're saying, that is a beautiful thing because it forced me to have to learn how to make a piece of trash sound like not a piece of trash.
Right.
So that when you have something good, you've built up those
it's like magic, man.
It's the ear training kind of thing. Like I feel like ear training for a musician and knowing that even if you're doing everything technically right, but it still sounds like crap, so you have to adjust somehow, is the equivalent of like somebody that keeps animals knowing that maybe they're doing everything according to the care sheet, but it still isn't optimal, and still tweaking until it quote sounds or feels right.
Right.
And that's what it's so hard to teach.
Yeah.
Because it's trial and error.
Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna guitar geek out for a minute.
Please do.
A guitar
I see the Telecaster behind you.
Right behind
I've been
me,
looking at it all day.
You know, a lot of people will talk about tone, and I think the tone comes from an amp or a certain guitar or strings, or and
it does.
Granted, they sort of factor into a certain sound, right? Like a Strat is going to sound different than a Les Paul, and et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But like, really, your tone comes from your fingers.
Yes.
And exactly what you sort of just said, right? The feel, the pressure, your brain sort of, connecting between how much pressure you're putting on your finger to make
Are you doing
sound.
vibrato? How hard are you hitting with the pick? Did you use the flesh of your finger instead of a pick? We talk about variables. There's an immense amount of variables for how one singular note can sound.
Yeah. It's crazy, but
that's why I commented on your video the other day. It was Tone City, man, because you were fucking singing, brother.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that I've told this story too before, but my guitar teacher when I was a kid used to do wedding gigs as a side thing. And he was playing just real book jazz charts at a wedding, and he was playing a Joe Pass tune. And he had this dude that was just sitting in the front row. Everybody else is doing wedding things, and this guy was just sitting staring at him.
Right.
And it turned out to be Joe Pass, who was just at the wedding. And at the time, my guitar teacher told me he was a struggling, musician. His gear was not nice. Joe Pass picked up his stuff, grabbed the guitar and played, and it sounded exactly like Joe Pass, because Joe Pass sounds like Joe Pass. The gear doesn't sound like Joe Pass.
It took me a long time to learn that, and like I see a lot of at least for me, right, in my brain, I see a lot of parallels with Riley turned into
I did see that cat. That's funny.
Voodoo. We're not booting people out of the chat anymore. We're just turning him into various animals. But yeah, I can equate music and keeping animals a lot. Like I see a lot of parallels. There he is. Riley, what do you have to say? Stay away from that.
It's really funny because he like rage texts our group chat sometimes, like the freaking cat jumped on my cage, and I think we're about to see it happen in real time.
Live. Right. Oh, that's funny.
But no, I'm with you. I think there's a lot of parallels. I mean, like the collector aspect of it all. I know you and I both probably have drawers full of effects pedals. You can't just you can't just have a few.
No.
It becomes a little bit more of an art form, and like student of the serpent, student of the tone. Sure.
Yeah, man. So I gotta ask this question.
All right.
And then we'll share a wild carpet python, and I guess we'll wrap it up. But
all right.
Favorite guitar effects pedal?
Ooh, that's actually easy for me, but you go first.
Okay. So I'm probably gonna say, which is weird, I love the Roto Vibe.
Okay.
I just love that swirly Hendrixy.
No, I dig that. I don't think that's weird at all, because it's not something that can be easily replicated with like just in-amp settings or I don't know, like a plugin trying to do that sounds like crap. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So what's yours?
Okay. For me, I would have to go with very specific, my Strymon timeline delay pedal.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that thing is a freaking supercomputer. Like I can do so much with that pedal. It's not just delay. I can get tremolo. I can get reverb. I can dial every parameter, save like 200 presets. Like I literally don't need a lot of other pedals when that thing's on the board. And overdrive and stuff, you can just push your amp. You don't need an overdrive pedal. It just is a convenience factor.
Right.
But the timeline was the most game-changing piece of equipment I've ever owned. And like when I was touring, and hopefully when I'm touring again next year,
Right.
I have the entire set saved in order so that all of my stuff is to the correct BPM, all dialed in
Nice.
the order of that night. I plug it into my computer. I can change the order. I can it. It's an incredible piece of machinery.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of boring and old school with the roto vibe, but yeah, man,
I mean, not at all. I think that just goes to show, like, something like music, you can, and keeping animals, there's many ways to skin the cat.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
many approaches.
Yeah, I do always play with a delay pedal. I do always play with reverb. But I find that like I will use an overdrive from time to time, but I think like that one thing that's usually is on is that roto vibe. I just dig that.
That's awesome.
Hendrixy, swishily, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
that's a cool tone.
It totally makes sense to me. And sometimes I have to just turn everything off except for like one or two pedals. Like it can become too complicated sometimes, you know. And it's like you got to get back to the bones and
sure, yeah.
Just rely
like
on
I
the
said,
instrument.
it comes from these, right?
Yeah. Riley, your cat sat on your chair while you were gone. It was quite.
It was quite funny. You were there, and then you were gone, and then there was a cat there, so we thought you turned into a cat.
Yes,
I did.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Some Hollywood movie magic for y'all.
There you go.
Practicing.
I think
very good.
We should start another podcast called Guitars and Guanas.
Guitars and what?
And guanas.
Guanas. Okay. Yeah. Not guano.
No, not that shit.
Yeah, no. I've said it before. I can't wait for the day that you and I finally get to jam in person.
Oh, dude,
it's gonna be glorious.
I know. Tell me about it.
Go play some Cannibal Corpse.
Sure. I don't know any, but I'll figure it out.
They're going on tour right now. You can always go refresh yourself.
Yeah, excellent.
I will be seeing them in March.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
My first concert back since pre-COVID is going to be Manchester Orchestra in February. Can't wait.
So I had tickets to go see Dream Theater.
Nice.
Sweet.
In November, and it canceled because of COVID, and they're coming in spring of 2022. So
nice. That'll be a cool one.
Yeah, I went to a local show like a month ago, and that was my first show back since COVID. And now this one is going to be like my first like big name, big show, but it's at a local spot. It's at Ace of Spades, so it's only going to be like a couple hundred people. Right. So that'll be sick. And Cannibal Corpse is hell good live, so they'll be solid. Whitechapel's going to be playing, and I like some of their previous albums. They just dropped an album today that sucks.
Oh, really?
It's awful. Oh, it's so bad. I wish I didn't pre-order it.
I find that as of late, so me and I know we're kind of going off on a tangent, right? But as of late, a friend of mine, we were talking about music today as opposed to music, say, from the 70s or like, say like Zeppelin or things like that, or earlier type of rock music. And, he played some song for me, and I can't remember who it was, but I was kind of like, I just was like, yeah, okay, it sounds cool,
something contemporary.
It's cool. It's kind of had like a Linkin Park type of vibe. Again, I don't know who it is or whatever, but
for sure.
I was trying to explain to him, like, I feel that music, not all, but like modern music to me today sort of lacks soul.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the modern people that have gravitated towards sort of still have that sort of soul where I don't care what the instrument is, but like actually playing it from say like as a song or as a band or I don't know. There's a
I agree with
certain
you
there's
as
a
it
certain magic there.
pertains to what is popular and what's mainstream. I think you can
Mhm.
still find it and it's still out there.
Oh, it's
but
out
it's
there.
not what is at the forefront, and that's a shame.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then you listen to like, you listen to, so I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but yes, I listened to this song. So there's a song. So my wife was listening to this song by Adele. I guess it's her new song.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, she's back and she's
Holy fuck, man.
fierce.
Like if you kind of get out of the mindset, like it's hard for me being like coming from like in my early days being a metal guy and like then like listening, but I love all types of music. I like everything, all styles, whatever. But god damn, it's her and a piano and a kick drum. And dude, it's like it's so freaking intense the way she sings, and like it's very rare to see that. And I think Gary Clark Jr. was one of those that I saw, and I was like, he's got it. That is what is missing. That, that guy,
100%. I mean, Adele's a crazy talent, and she really pushes what a vocal cord can do, which is why she's always having vocal surgery and canceling tours, because she blows her shit out. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah,
Eric,
anyway.
you'd like a band that's a newer band that's come out recently that's been getting a lot of radio play. Dirty Honey. I'm sure you've heard of them.
I have not.
No, oh man, they have an old school like high energy like American rock like sound to them. It's really good. Like it sounds like there's old souls coming through them. Dirty Honey.
Dirty Honey.
Yeah,
I like the name.
I'll check that out too. Yeah, I'm
intrigued. It's got
love honey.
If I could combine especially a few dirty sounds, they have like they almost have like a Rolling Stones kind of Creedence, almost kind of Halen-esque sort of blend of a lot of these features. Like you almost feel like there's some Southern roots to it, but then there's some good guitar wailing on there and some good energy, like just good, strong, fast rock that just feels right. Like it. Right. And it sounds like something that you'd expect to have come out of like the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, Black Crowish. Yeah, Robert, I agree. Very Black Crowish. Right. They're good. They're
Morelia and music. That's the
pod. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've always, my favorite genre of music hands down is blues. I just love the blues. There's something about blues that I love. And one of the things that I've never really gravitated to do and learn is like slide Delta style, like that deep Southern South open G tuning, like that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Untempered.
Yeah. So
that's a sound that has soul behind it. If you play that shit right, that's how you spell the word soul.
Yes, 100%. So that's like when I hear so I listen to that and then I go and listen to modern music and it's like, I don't know, man, I'm just not there,
Yeah.
But anyway, I've been practicing that a lot and like it's fun to pick
slide out.
Oh yeah. I've been messing with it. There's some guy online, it's an Active Melody or whatever, but he does like a lot of blues and stuff. So I signed up. It's like $9 a month, and you get access to all his, his classes online and stuff like that.
That's awesome, man.
So I've been doing that, and it's just reignited that love of playing music again. And
there's nothing like learning a new technique when everything else is kind of feeling stale. It's like you're starting over.
Yeah, because you got that thing like it's like you're struggling to play it, and it's like it's
shit.
like I haven't struggled to play things in a while. That's because I haven't pushed myself. And
I cherish those moments.
And it's like lifting weights when you go to the gym and like you break that. I broke 190 pounds to lift it. And it's like yes, I got it.
That's awesome.
You got that metronome going, and you're like,
I can only do it at
60. Yeah, I have to. I
gotta hear that.
Yeah.
All right, hit us with the wild carpet.
Yeah, let's do that so we can
My dog's gonna start barking at me soon.
Yeah, my wife is in Florida, probably wondering why I haven't called her yet. So,
Oh, nice.
this carpet here is from Mount Malloy, which
Two of them.
Ah,
which
are
was
they doing the dirty?
I don't think so.
Oh.
But Mount Malloy is somewhere around Gelatin. So I
Okay.
guess you can see why they sort of have that sort of look. But
Those are
man,
beautiful.
they're cool looking carpets, man. So Shane Black, he had this picture up. Actually, this was the last show we were supposed to do was supposed to show this. So I've had this for a while. But
that's awesome. For the folks listening, I mean, super dark. Not
black and white.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of xanthic-y, silvery Raiders colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the saddles where it's like right at the bottom there, and it sort of had that.
It has a classic jungle pattern look to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Just different colors. And like you see there how it's sort of like in those saddles that, what would you say? That's chestnutty brown or like, I don't know.
It's almost kind of on par with the dry grass around a little bit, maybe a little more silvery and sleek, but
right.
Yeah.
So I looked up just an environmental pic because, like, when I do that, I like to share that with the listeners or the watchers or whatever, and that's sort of like the area around Mount Malloy. So, classic carpet python territory, trees and whatnot. So, yeah, there we go. Cool.
Venture to guess there's water somewhere around there.
I would almost bet. Yeah.
That's awesome. Nice.
Cool.
They remind me of
the
Cape York carpets a little bit in color.
Yeah.
I got to see Brandon's adult male.
Cape York.
Yeah. It's different.
Yeah.
Very
I got
different.
a pair. Yeah, they're
cool.
You're
One of like 3 people with a pair in the States.
Yeah.
They're wicked looking. They're crazy.
Archer River carpets. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Eric,
cool.
what do we got coming up on the network on NPR?
So we did the 10-year anniversary yesterday. That'll come out in podcast form on Tuesday. We have, I guess we're back into the swing of things. Next week on NPR, we're going to be recording the breeding season episode.
Sweet.
We do that every year, you know. I don't know. I think every year it's kind of like, I feel like we repeat the same thing a lot, but people seem to
always
love it.
useful.
So,
yeah,
you know.
I can't wait personally.
Yeah. You know, we always learn something from the previous year and stuff like that. So that's cool. But that's
awesome.
Podcasts are sort of back in swing. Sorry, they've been sort of hit or miss just because of me being sick and family issues and all that kind of stuff. But should be back in the swing of things. So
awesome. Super excited to hear that. There's some new Fight Club episodes. Shout out to Colubrid and Colubroid Radio for breaking the top 50 in U.S. pet and animal podcasts. I sent Zach a screenshot of that earlier, and he said, "What? Really?"
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're killing it, man.
Yeah, go support that pod too. Currently leading the network on that chart, so pretty good.
Yeah. So we were saying it last night. NPR, the OG, we surpassed, and I haven't been watching this or paying attention to it, but usually when we do the anniversary show, I usually put the stats out. But we surpassed 1 million downloads.
Damn.
For the show.
That's awesome.
That's a lot.
Yeah, man. I was like, wait, what? Wow.
That's
congratulations. I mean, you know,
pretty
well
cool.
earned.
Pretty cool. Yeah. It was like
a million is a huge number.
It's a lot of downloads.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, why isn't this monetized? What are we doing here? You know?
That's serious. Come on, let us be our own bosses. Somebody needs to needs to hear this and go, hey, you guys, just do this. And then they'll like employed.
Yes, exactly.
And with that in mind, if you want to support, please see the NPR Network Patreon. We've got a few tiers there. Teespring store, some additional goodies for purchase available there.
Yep. We should have the calendar together I'm waiting for people to send me the high res pics, start putting it together, get that ASAP. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, we're going to just sell it right off of the website, MorelianPythonRadio.com. Just make it super easy and all, just right from there. So,
Perfect.
So yeah, I think I always say big thank you to everybody for hanging with us. The easiest way you can help us grow is just show us some love, just subscribing or sharing shows that you like or shows in the network or whatever. Get it out there. I think the most important thing in the hobby is sharing knowledge and sharing, good knowledge.
Yeah.
I think that defeats bad knowledge.
Yeah. And for everyone's homework this week, I want you to recruit 3 more YouTube subscribers per listener.
Yes.
Everyone listening must go get 3 people on board by next week, or the Squid Games is going to eliminate you.
Very good.
That was a relevant reference. I don't know what the Squid Games is.
Oh, you haven't watched it? Great
I have no idea what it is. I see people making fun of it, and I'm like, I don't have time to keep up with this shit. I can't even keep up with ball pythons. You asked me to keep up with this. I haven't had cable TV in 7 years.
All right.
Sorry.
Fair point.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're not missing
happening.
anything, Riley. Good way to go.
I got enough snakes to take care of. There's 105 butts to clean up after right here. So we're good. I don't have time for that. Y'all enjoy Squid Games. I'm sure it's wonderful.
I have not
Subscribe
watched
to
it.
the YouTube channel.
It was devastating, but I loved it. Yes, please subscribe.
Yeah, Dragon Lair is right. I can't believe NPR YouTube only has 500 ad subscribers. Yeah, that's because y'all have been slacking. That's not our fault.
Yeah, come on. I mean, all the podcasts are there.
Cry?
Yeah, don't make Lucas cry. He's an ugly crier.
According to Owen, you guys are working. He said you've been very busy, and according to him, you guys are working on some content from the Arizona trip.
Me and Owen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to do that. I've been trying to get ahead in school so that I can put some hours towards that. But I'm going to ASAP.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. He said, you were doing things like school, which is very important. So
I'll get back at him as soon as I can. I've got the files. I just need to put my editing socks on and go to town.
All right. There you go. That's all I got.
Right.
Editing
Just socks. That's all he wears is socks.
So that's all he edits. I don't need that visual.
Yeah.
Lucas just sitting there naked in his socks. Come on, socks, don't fail me now.
This will be a good thumbnail. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna get a burrito, gentlemen. But this has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
As always, thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. All right.
Love, peace, and chicken grease.
Bye.